Hi, I'm back. I'm Jill with Copycat Crafts by Jill, and I thought I'd share how to make the little bits and bobs that I make when I'm finished a folio or journal. And then every time I go through it, I just add a little more and find little places to put little tiny bits and bobs. I also have from Vibe of Vintage. She has a couple of kits out that are just that, bits and bobs. They they you need a paper cutting machine like a Cricut or a Brother paper cutting machine. It's a digital, and then you cut out all the little pieces with your cutting machine. Well, before I had a cutting machine, and before I don't even think I had like dies or anything, and if I did, I was really going plain grungy old school, and that's what I was going with. And I'll show you a few of what I mean. Like these longer pieces. Let's see if I can find a few more. Um, I don't think I added them in this one. I only added them in this one. I did the long one. Here's a short piece. And then I put in this little piece, this little piece, this little black piece. There's probably a few I might even be missing. This little striped piece. Any on the back? No. But I wanted to show you the ones that once I got the digital ones from Vibe of Vintage, and once I had my granddaughter cut them out on my Cricut, which is now broke. So these mostly are the ones from Vibe of Vintage. She has a couple of kits. One even makes little keys and stuff. They're just rickety, rackety ends and dots and, just the little pieces I can add on. And, that I wouldn't be able to, I can't make these. I wouldn't be able to make these. But, when we tear things and such. She also has ones that are like this, which I really enjoy using because I think they make a great like wraparound closure or some type of decoration closure. And she has ones like this, which I find are really cool. And all these type, which she has, that are really cool. And I use them all. Sometimes I'll grab one and shorten it. I like to sometimes get them ready like this. I'll get some ready and just leave them sitting so that I can pick them out and use them at a later date. Here's another one. I love to take the holes and just tie a little piece of string or something in there. Sometimes after they're cut out, I'll take the opposite. the piece that was actually cut out was this round piece from like in here. That's the actual piece, but then I cut this out and then I glued in some of the acetate, which I'll do off and on. I did it here as well, but that was from a die set, of course, but all these are really, really cool. And I constantly use them. They're my go-to. But before I had them, and even now, there's times if you didn't have that, when I didn't have it, I needed to make my own just simple, straight little bits and bobs. And how I would do that is I would cut strips of paper. These are, let me show you. I bought all the, I don't know, are they Tim Holtz? Tim Holtz Ideology papers. And I have 3 sets. I don't know if there were any other sets, but I have the 3 sets of the different colors. And I will grab from this set, from any of these, but it doesn't only have to be these. This is a piece of a file folder. It was an old one that I found at Goodwill. So whenever I find the really old file folders at Goodwill, I always pick them up. I love that they, they have what almost looks like a texture, but it isn't. They're usually stronger than the ones you can buy today at Walmart. So I'll get them. This is actually a one-sided left. It's all I have left. It was a very old school folder that you could, go to the drugstore or, even Walmart, and you buy, and it was just would open, and then it would have 2 big pockets, and you slip your papers in and you close it. And this was an old one, so it almost has like that fake leather, faux leather texture to it. They made them in different colors. I wish I could get my hands on a couple more because I really like that fake leather. And when I grunge them up, it really looks cool. Then there's also the black paper from Tim Holtz that is sandable. So are these. But the first ones that came out, I believe, he brought out a black paper and maybe gold or something. And I got the black tablet, so I have a whole tablet of this. It's sandable, and it kind of has like a fabricy texture to it. It's real lightweight, and it sands really easy. You got to be really careful with this. But that is what I use to make my strips. Any and all of these things. Once I make my strips, like here, which I'll cut a couple more because I wanted to do some other colors. These are this really cool tealy blue, really cool color. This is what it looks like after I distress it. So you can see it's why I'm attracted to it, right? And that's what I was actually working on yesterday or last night. We're making some of these distressed pieces to put into the 2 folios that I made. So let me put this out of the way. And by the way, I don't know if I'm not even sure why I'm making more, because I have all this plus a whole container filled with the bigger ones like these that won't fit in these. And I have a whole entire container of them. But sometimes I just want to color that I don't have, like this, and I will sit and make a couple of my own to throw in here. So let me push those to the back. I will show you. You can cut by hand, but that never works for me. So I usually make them 1/4 inch, sometimes a little less. Like that. Sometimes I'll make them closer to a 1/2 inch. Like that. But sometimes I even go really as thin as I can get it and still have it be straight. So I just cut strips like that. Then I can keep them at the ready like that, or I can go to the next step, which for me is usually sanding them. And I have the little sanding disc, but you certainly don't need a sanding disc. We can use a nail file. And I just sand them. Let me get my little paper here. Plastic to protect my things. I'll put some on here. Let's do the thick black one, and I just distress it with sanding. I like mine pretty darn distressed. I like it to look like it's old. One down. Here's 2 more I made already. The blue. Let's do this little red one. You can sand them as hard or as soft as you want. You don't have to go nearly as deep and tattered as I'm doing them. But to give them the little extra is I like to round 2 of the corners on the same side. That way if I want to use them like this, it does have 2 finished sides. So to do that, I usually take my corner rounder, and the thinner you make it, the harder it kind of is. You probably know that, but I just stick it in, flip it around, stick this side in, and now I have my 2 rounded ends. It doesn't work to round both ends usually if it's a little thinner than this. You usually have to get it a slightly heavier one if you want to round 2 sides. But let's try it with this one. You'll see what I mean. Kind of missed it. It's not. I have to be careful because if I shove it in too hard, I can't tell where the stop is. Then you kind of have an ovally one. That side doesn't look quite right. A lot of times I don't do this till I know how small or big I want them. Now this one may be too short to stick in there, but I always press my luck. Whoop, shot it out. Worked good. I need 2 hands. All right, and that worked really nice. So a lot of times once I do that and then I sand it, I call it a day till I'm ready to use it. Then if I need to trim it or make it smaller, I will. These you cannot You cannot round the corner, but I really like the thin ones, and I still rough them up. Yep, they're more difficult. Be a little more gentle with them. But once I have it, then I can just nip off wherever I want to make really small ones and just stick them somewhere. But the other thing I do is I have one of these, and they cut the long, get one of these and I'll show you. So these just have the long, like that, and I will make my own. But this here is not the piece that I'm most interested in. It's these. So if I know that I'm going to make these or want to use some of these, I may sand this first, so that once I cut them out, they're pre-sanded and I don't have to try and fiddle with them because they are extremely tiny. But I definitely use these little ones. So they're not impossible to distress. But I actually use these, and that was by accident. I don't have a whole drawer of these. I wasn't running around the neighborhood collecting these from anyone who had one of these. One of these, I was actually making one of these. And one of these fell on my project and happened to land in a really cool spot. And I was so impressed with myself that I picked it up and glued it onto that spot. And since then, when I do make these, I will keep those. And I'm sure I do have one of those in here somewhere. Just a matter of where, because it is very small. So I'm not too sure. Oh, here's two more here and here that I didn't put a hole in. That I did this one. But I know I have, oh, it's right here. Right there it is. And I didn't even distress it yet, so let's get on that, Jill. There we go. Just glued it there. And voila. And another small one. Now this was one of the cutouts from Tim Holtz. One of his dies, but sometimes that's just too big and you need one like that. But anyway, okay, so then once I have it done like that, I can just keep them like that. Just keep it like that, and then at any time when I decide I want to add one in to a journal, I just pick the color I want, cut it to the size I want, and then I may have to re-cut the end, re-round the end, but I will. And other times, after I do that, I can still distress it if I want to give it. Open that up. I can still distress it, which gives it yet one more layer of grunge. And I'll keep these in my bigger, larger case if they don't fit in my smaller ones that I keep right at my desk. Or I'll just cut it in half and put it in the ones in my desk. Even these, you can just run the ink over it just to give it that extra dirty look. I don't know how well you can see that, but that's what that looks like. But then the other thing is, especially if I cut them like that thick, I will round the edge like that and pick one of these, and I will decide where I want the hole. Can't really see where I'm at, but I'll put a hole in it, and now I can trim it however long or short I want it, and then I just round the two edges and make another one. I'll just keep doing that. And this too, you can grunge up even more so that it really looks like it was in someone's basement for the last 60 years. And that is how I make, I don't like that edge, I'm gonna have to redo that. But the black material ones are really floppy, so they're a little bit harder to get your corners around it, because they're just so thin and floppy that I can't tell when I put it in too far. That's better. That's better. Whoop. Wrong one. These are much more delicate than these sheets from Tim Holtz that I really enjoy using. And the first time I was cutting from the digitals from Vibe Vintage, I was using these papers, and as a matter of fact, that's when I had the accident. Let me see if I can dig them out, where it was a happy accident because they wouldn't cut all the way through because I didn't have the settings set right. So as you can see there, the numbers, they did not cut all the way through, but when I sanded them, they really looked cool. And I posted it that it was a happy accident, and I use these, and I'm very stingy with these because now that my Cricut is broke, I can't accidentally make any more of these. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure if I could accidentally make more of these even if my Cricut was working, so I'm a little more stingier with them. But these, I can sit and make all this type of little bits and bobs. And I just thought that I would share that with you if you really like grunge. And sometimes I pick out little pieces like this and glue them in somewhere, and if you happen to see it and go, what was that? Where did that come from? Well, it came from here. I'll use the same whole one, but I have a smaller. And then I have an even tinier one for littler, to make tinier holes for, backwards, for this type of thing. Although I usually mark it in the back when I know where I want to put the hole. I mark it in the back. I'm just winging it right now. I'm showing off. So then I have one with a little hole in it, which is how I make these. I'll put in a little circle hole reinforcer, and over here I didn't, because there was two holes close together, and I'll just glue that in to a folio or journal, and that's how I do it. And I just thought I would share that. You don't have to sit at home and think, gee, I don't have the cutting machine, so I can't really make all those cute little things. Nope, you can. And if you use these papers and make something and just have these scraps, keep your scraps, because that's all this is. It was a little piece of scrap, and if it looks like I could use it, I will throw it in the bin, and then if I find a spot for it, then I'm happy that I kept it. Cool little piece. But anyway, so that's how I make my bits and bobs when I'm not using the ones from my Cricut and from Fiber Vintage. So just go, cut yourself a couple strips, start sanding away, and make some bits and bobs, and keep them in a spot close to you, because if you don't, you're not going to remember to use them. So I always keep mine right in arm's reach away in front of me, and I use them all the time, probably too much, but I think once you make a couple, well, let me know if you get addicted to making these or to using them as much as I have, because I really have. And I like sometimes to just have a little busy work, something I don't have to think too much about. There's no measuring, no rhyme or reason. I can stop at any time and say that I can do more. I can, when I'm ready to use it, I can decide if I want to sand it harder, if I want to put some distress ink on it. On the red ones I always do. But that is how I do it. Sometimes I'll just sit for hours and while I'm listening to an audiobook, or sometimes nothing. Sometimes music, a little music, but sometimes nothing. I get so caught up in my thoughts, so I don't need anything else, and I'll just make piles of it. Not that I need more piles, but but that's what I do. And I just thought I'd share that in case anyone was interested. Now you know. So in the meantime, until my next video, stay creative and hugs.